Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is a story of what if Naruto and Sasuke was like Hashirama and Madara. Naruto and Sasuke will be strong. Naruto will have a wood release and he is a Senju. Sasuke will, as you all know, an Uchiha. Now let's start the story. Chapter 6 inches looks like this is it. Naruto muttered, at the dawn of the third day as they reached the tower. Things had gone pretty slowly on the way, because that damn Mark kept trying to break the containment seal, and caused Sasuke untold amounts of pain. Naruto had to admire Sasuke for being able to grit his teeth and keep moving through the pain. We made it. Hanata said with relief evident in her voice. Sasuke grunted as his left knee gave out, but Naruto was there in a flash to catch him. Hey, don't strain yourself, you dumbass. Naruto barked, slinging Sasuke's arm over his shoulder. Come on, lean on me. I don't need your help, though. Sasuke muttered, which made Naruto smile. I know you don't. Team 7 entered the tower through their designated door and entered an empty room, not really sure what to expect. Look, Sasuke grunted and pointed at wall at the far end of the room. High above them was a text. Naruto read it and raised an eyebrow. Without heaven. What the hell? He asked and pointed at a segment of the text. Words are missing there. Do you think, maybe? Hanata mumbled, staring up at the text with her brow furrowing. Is it telling us to open the scrolls? Naruto reached into his kunai pouch, taking out the scrolls. He handed one to Hanata and took a deep breath, preparing to open the scroll. All right. Open them, Sasuke ordered, and the two ripped open the scrolls, screwing their eyes shut as if the scrolls were going to explode or something. The three slowly opened their eyes and stared at the scroll. They all recognized the inky patterns on the scrolls. These are summoning seals. Naruto exclaimed and threw away the scroll, while Hanata did the same, just in time for them to explode into smoke. The smoke cleared, and the three genin stared. Uruka-sensei. Naruto exclaimed, while the smiling Chunan in front of them grinned. Hey. Long time no see. What's going on? Sasuke asked, blinking. Why were you summoned? At the end of this second test, it's set up so we Chunan meet up with the exam takers, and I was allowed to be the one to greet you. Greet us. Hanata repeated, getting a nod from Uruka, who picked up a pocket watch, staring at it. Well, you weren't the fastest, but you certainly weren't the last, he spoke, grinning. The second test, all three of you pass. Congratulations. So, sensei. What would have happened if we had opened the scrolls before now? Hanata felt obligated to ask. Uruka chuckled as he picked up the earth scroll, holding it up. As you may have figured out, this test's rules are set up to test your ability to perform missions correctly. So, if you were to break these rules and open the scrolls, what would have happened? Sasuke asked, getting a smile from Uruka. Those exam takers would be put in a state of unconsciousness for the remainder of the test period. Those were my orders. Hey, sensei, Naruto said, pointing at the wall. What's the meaning of the writing on the wall? Seems like there's a word missing. We can't figure it out. Ah, Uruka said and pointed at the text. I'm also here to explain that. Read it. This is the motto of the Chunan written by Hokage-sama. Motto. Sasuke repeated. The heaven in this paragraph refers to the human mind, and the earth refers to the human body, Uruka explained. If you lack heaven, seek wisdom, be prepared. That's basically, for example, if someone's weakness is his or her brain, gain knowledge and prepare yourself for the missions. If you lack earth, run in the fields, seek advantages. So, if someone's weakness is stamina, then it's saying that you must continue to train hard. And if you have both heaven and earth, you can succeed even the most dangerous missions. So, basically, all missions become safe and easy. Then As3 should have no problem completing missions. Naruto said confidently, grinning widely, while Sasuke smirked at him, and Hanata smiled. Anyway, the words that represent a Chunan, the person, word from the scrolls goes there. The last sentence is, these rules will guide a person's extremes. I don't think any of you really lack neither heaven nor earth. However, train hard, get stronger, and advance through the ranks. Make our Hokage, and the Hokage before him, proud. Uruka smiled brightly as Naruto gave a lazy salute. Then, he took a good long look at them. Wow, you guys look tired. There are rooms here where you can stay until the exam ends. As if on cue, Sasuke's eyes drifted shut, and he collapsed, only to be once more caught by Naruto, who smiled softly at him. We've been running non-stop since we ran into Orochimaru. No food, no rest. I'm surprised he managed to stay awake this long through that pain. What a guy, he thought fondly, putting Sasuke comfortably on his back and carrying him. Hanata, go get some rest. You deserve it, Naruto told Hanata, who straightened up. But I'm not tired, Naruto-kun. Liar, Naruto said with a shrewd grin. Even I got tired from that run. You must be beat. I'm gonna take this moron to the Gigi, then I'll go get some rest as well. Hanata blushed at getting caught being tired, but she did as Naruto said nonetheless, heading further into the tower. Now that they were alone, Naruto turned to Iruka again, his eyes unusually serious. Iruka-sensei. I need to see the Hokage, later found Naruto in an office near the top of the tower. Inside the office was the Hokage, Kakashi, two Chunan, Izumo and Kotetsu, and that crazy examiner lady, Anko. Sasuke was asleep on the sofa in the office, and the Sandame was looking over the seal on his shoulder. The curse seal, the Sandame muttered, sighing. You encountered Orochimaru? Anko asked Naruto, who nodded. That snake freak was just playing with us, though. I got the feeling he wanted to test our strength. Once we had amused him enough, he'd put that seal on Sasuke and gave us the slip, Naruto said, turning his gaze to Sasuke, his eyes softening. I contained the chakra in the curse seal with a modified containment seal, but it won't hold for long, and it doesn't stop the pain. Frankly, I'm amazed that he managed the non-stop run here without collapsing. He's pretty amazing, eh? Kakashi, the Sandame spoke, making the lazy Junin stand at attention. I want you to start making preparations to perform the Fujihuan evil sealing method right away. Yes, sir, Kakashi said, moving to leave the office, but not before giving Naruto a smile and a pat on the shoulder. Don't be too hard on yourself, the Sandame spoke once Kakashi had left, making Naruto jump. The Sandame looked over his shoulder at him. You are not weak, Naruto-kun. Neither you nor Sasuke-kun are. There aren't many in this world who have fought Orochimaru and lived to speak of it. You should be proud you lived through the encounter. But like I said, he was playing with us. Naruto muttered, clutching his fists and gritting his teeth. He even stopped our triple rodeo and turned it on us. And like I said, don't be too hard on yourself, the Sandame said firmly. Orochimaru was my greatest pupil at one point. His power was amazing, and he was even considered a candidate for Yondaime Hokage. Just because you lost to him, that doesn't mean you are weak. Not by a long shot. If you were weak, he wouldn't have bothered to spare your lives. The Sandame sighed again, then looked at the examiner. Anko, take Naruto-kun to a room where he can rest. Izumo, Kotetsu, please take Sasuke to Kakashi. Yes, Hokage-sama, all three of them said together. A knock came upon the door to Naruto's room, and as he opened it, he found Hanata standing outside, looking well rested. She was blushing rather brightly, so Naruto immediately knew why she had come. Time to check my injuries, eh? He asked, and Hanata nodded. Naruto gestured for her to come inside, and she did, Naruto closing the door behind her, before moving over to sit on the bed, taking off his shirt, armor, and mesh to reveal the bandages on his body. They don't hurt, though, so I think they're fine. Hanata didn't say anything. Instead, she just kept blushing as she removed the bandages, only for her eyes to widen. There. They're gone, she spoke in amazement. Naruto looked down to see that, indeed, even the deep wound in his side Sasuke had given him was gone. Yeah, I've always healed fast, Naruto said with a shrug. Suppose it's the Kyuubi's doing, or something. Wow. Another knock was heard, but the door opened before Naruto could even rise from the bed, showing Sasuke entering, looking rested as well. Yo. Looking healed up and ready to tackle the world, Sasuke commented, his hands in his pockets. Likewise, Naruto said, nodding in approval. So, have you heard anything? 5 teams, including ours, have arrived so far, Sasuke said, moving into the room and sitting down in the only chair there. It's more than expected, so they don't expect any more teams to pass. How's the seal? Naruto asked, which made Sasuke reflexively reach up and rub his shoulder. Kakashi used some kind of fuinjutsu on me, called Fujihuan. It keeps the seal at bay, but only as long as I believe in my own strength. And you don't think you can? Hanata guessed, which got a nod from Sasuke. Why you shouldn't doubt yourselves, Sasuke-kun, Naruto-kun, she mumbled softly. You too. You're incredible. I don't know if anyone would have lasted as long as you two did against that man. I really admire you two for your strength. TCH. Sasuke uttered as if what Hanata had said had no effect on him, but they could both see that he had regained some confidence. I guess I'll just have to get a rematch with that Oroyaro. Then we'll see who beats who. Well, first of all we'll need to get through this Chunan exam before we consider fighting that freak, Naruto said, stretching and putting on his clothes again. I don't know about you two, but I'm kind of filled with energy right now. I think I'll go for a run. Anyone wanna come? Might as well, Sasuke said as he and Naruto stood up. They both looked to Hanata, who nodded and stood up as well. Naruto, Sasuke, Hanata, Team 8, Team 10, Team Guy, Team Suna, Team Oto and Team Kabuto were standing in front of the 7 Junin sensei, the proctors, some Chunin, and the Hokage. The Sandaime cleared his throat. First off, for the second test, congratulations on passing. Guy smirked and looked at Kakashi. Your team isn't too bad. Maybe they were lucky. But as long as my team is around, getting any further is impossible. Since, from now, it's all about real ability. Well, with youth, there are sweet times, and there are sour times, Kakashi. Kakashi just turned to Guy, staring at him lazily. Huh. You say something, Guy. Guy snapped and turned his back on Kakashi, clutching his fist. Hey. Not bad, my rival Kakashi. You're cool in that way, and it really gets on my nerves. Kakashi just looked clueless. Now, for the coming third test, but before I explain that, there's something else I'd like you to know. It concerns the true reason for this exam. Why do we have all the allied countries taking the exam together? To promote friendship among the countries. To raise the level of shinobi. I don't want you to be confused about the true meaning. This exam is, the Sandaime said and paused dramatically, puffing on his pipe, a replacement for war among the allied countries, he said, shocking the genin present. If you go back in time, the current allies were enemies who fought each other over who would rule. In order to prevent wasteful fighting, the stage that these countries chose for battle, that is the origins of this Chunin selection exam. Then, this isn't for Chunin promotions. Rocklee asked, wide-eyed. It is a fact that this exam decides which shinobi have what it takes to become a Chunin. But on the other hand, this exam has another side, where each country's ninja risks their own life to protect their land's prestige. Prestige? Ino asked, getting a nod from the Sandaime. Watching this third exam will be leaders and influential individuals from many countries who make up the clients of the shinobi. And the leaders of the countries will also be there to watch each of your battles. If the strength of a country is clear, that country will receive more clients. And conversely, if seen as weak, they will lose clients, the Sandaime said and paused for a moment, letting the information sink in. And this will signal to potential enemy countries that, our village has this much power. So, we will send a political message to the outsiders. But why? Kiba asked. Why do we have to risk our lives in battle? The strength of the country is the strength of the village. The strength of the village is the strength of the shinobi. And a shinobi's true strength is born only through life-risking battle. This exam is a place to see each country's strength, and to show off your own. It only has meaning because lives are at risk. And that's why those that have come before you have fought in the Chunin exam for this dream that is meaningful. But then, why do you say stuff about it being for friendship? Tenten of Team Guy asked, looking thoroughly confused. I said it in the beginning, I don't want you to confuse the purpose of this. By losing life and establishing balance. This is the shape of friendship in the world of the shinobi, the Sandaime said calmly. Before we begin the third test, I will tell you one more thing. This is not just a test. This is a life-risking battle, with your dreams and your country's prestige on the line. I don't care what it is. Just hurry up and tell us what this life-risking battle entails, Sabaku Nogara said, his arms crossed. Yes, I'd like to now explain the third test, but, actually, a new voice interrupted, coughing, as a man blurred into view in front of the Sandaime, on his knees. I apologize, Hokage-sama. From here on, as the referee, will you please allow me, Gecko Hayate, to explain? By all means, the Sandaime said with a nod. The man stood up and turned to the genin. He looked sick, with bags around his eyes and a bad cough. Hello, everyone, I'm Hayate. Before the third test, there's something I'd like you to do. It's a preliminary for the third test to decide who gets to participate in the main event, Hayate explained, coughing again. The first and second test may have been too easy this year. We have a bit too many people remaining. According to Chunan exam rules, we must have a preliminary and reduce the number of participants for the third test. As Hokage-sama indicated earlier, there will be many guests at the third tests, so the fights could take too long. We are limited in time, he explained and paused, letting the information sink in. So, anyway, those who are not feeling well, those who feel like quitting after these explanations, please come forward now. Since we'll be starting the preliminary immediately. After a couple of seconds of silence, Kabuto raised his hand. I'm going to quit. Hayate stared at him for a while, before looking at his clipboard. You're Konoha's Yakushi Kabuto-kun, right? You may leave now. Does anyone else want to retire? Oh, I forgot to tell you that, from now on, it will be individual battling. You may raise your hand based on your own judgment. No one else raised their hand. Well, since no one else wants to quit, let's begin. There are basically no rules. The fight continues until one of you dies, is knocked out, or admits your defeat. But when I decide that the winner has clearly been established, since we don't want to pointlessly increase the amount of corpses, I'll jump in and stop things. And the object that controls your destinies is. A hatch on the wall opened up to reveal a large scoreboard. Is this? This electric scoreboard will show the matchups for each battle. Now, this is sudden, but let's announce the two names of the first fight. The screen flickered to light, and two names popped up. Uchiha Sasuke vs Akato Yoroi. Hayate coughed. Will everyone except the two participants move to the upper level? Right off the bat, huh? Sasuke asked with a smirk as the genin started heading up to the stands, leaving only him and Yoroi on the floor. Yoroi was a genin from Kabuto's team, his face covered by a cloth, and his eyes covered by black lenses. They both moved to the middle of the room, facing each other, with Hayate between them to the side. The two participants in the first fight are Akato Yoroi and Uchiha Sasuke. Are you ready? Yeah. Yes. Now. Please begin. Hayate jumped back as Yoroi put his hands in a tiger seal. Are you ready? The proctor just asked that, Sasuke quipped. You must either be deaf, or a bigger moron than Naruto. Yoroi twitched, and Naruto immediately snapped. Hey, you bastard, don't take shots at me like that. The other genin reached behind his back, then flung 3 shuriken at Sasuke, who fished out a kunai, swiping it at the shuriken and sending them flying back at Yoroi, who ducked. Yoroi charged forward and swiped his hand at Sasuke, who dodged to the side, his eyes narrowing in thought. That attack hadn't been meant to hurt, but rather to grab. His other hand, however, had been quite relaxed, as had his legs, so he had made no preparations for a follow-up. Yoroi swiped at him again, this time a backhanded swing in which he turned his arm in an attempt to grab Sasuke, who immediately flipped out of his reach. There's something weird about that hand of yours, isn't there? Sasuke asked with a smirk, activating his Sharingan. Whatever it is, I'll notice it. Sasuke's Sharingan immediately saw the chakra around Yoroi's hand. The chakra was flowing into Yoroi's palm, and the Dujutsu immediately started breaking down the technique as Yoroi charged again. Ah, a one-trick pony, then. Sasuke asked as he dodged another swipe. No wonder you're still a genin at your age. As long as I don't allow you to touch me with that chakra-absorbing hand of yours, I'll be safe. Don't underestimate me, you little brat. Yoroi roared as he charged again. This time, he managed to grab Sasuke and started absorbing his chakra, only for Sasuke to disappear in a poof of smoke. Cage Bunshin. Yoroi exclaimed in shock. Suddenly, 3 shuriken flew past him from behind, and Yoroi spun around to see Sasuke standing behind him. The Uchiha yanked the ninja wires in his hands, changing the course of the shuriken and making them swing around Yoroi, wrapping him up in the ninja wire. There are several ways for me to end the match right here, Sasuke informed the man. I can cut your head off with my sword, but my favorite would be to burn you with my Ryuka no Jutsu. So, you wanna give up? Seeing that Yoroi was standing there defiantly, not saying a word, Sasuke shrugged and put the ninja wire between his teeth, and then started flashing through hand seals, ending in a tiger seal. Wait. Yoroi called suddenly. I give up. Winner. Uchiha Sasuke, Hayate called, gesturing for the Uchiha, who smirked as he dropped the ninja wires and headed over to the stairs, walking up to his team and Kakashi. Not a spectacular fight, but against a guy like that, what you gonna do, right? Naruto asked, grinning, which got a grunt from Sasuke. But that was amazing, Sasuke-kun, Hanata said, smiling. To end the fight in just a few seconds, without getting hit once. I don't know if I could do that. Don't sell yourself short, Hanata, Sasuke said with a smirk. This guy was nowhere near our level. You would have noticed his ability immediately, you would have sealed the tenketsu in his right arm, preventing him from using that jutsu of his, and he would have lost. You have a good brain, and if you got some self-confidence to go with it, you'd be amazing. Naruto grinned brightly at the blushing Hanata and slapped his bicep. All you need is guts. The names started cycling on the board again, and then stopped with the names in the next fight. Hyuga Hanata versus Abumi Zaku. Remember, Hanata, Naruto said, grinning at the Hyuga as she gulped, guts with a little bit of cautiousness. Hanata took a deep breath, then nodded as she headed for the stairs, while the Oto Nin with the 3 kanji for death on his shirt made his way down the stairs from the stands on the other side of the room. Soon enough, Hanata and Zaku were in the middle of the room, facing each other. Are you both ready? Hayate asked the 2 contestants with a cough, getting nods from the 2 genin. Then, please begin. Please, give up, Hanata said as her Byakugan activated, and she got into a Juken stance. These last few weeks, my abilities have grown, and I would prefer not to hurt you. Hey, what's this? Zaku said with a grin. A ninja who doesn't want to hurt her opponent. What kind of babies do Konoha raise, eh? I'll end this fight in one blow. Hanata focused on Zaku, analyzing her opponent. Those tubes in his arms. He is channeling chakra through them. They must be some kind of cannons. Zaku raised his arms, pointing his palms at Hanata. Zenkuaha decapitating airwaves. Zaku roared, blasting a large amount of wind chakra at Hanata, who dodged out of the way to see the wall behind her get completely torn up by the blast. If I get hit by even one of those, I'm done for, she thought as she rushed forward. She needed to get him in close quarter combat. He was a long-range fighter, and she was a close-range fighter. At long range, he would be the only one with the ability to attack. Hanata came at Zaku with a flurry of Juken strikes, greatly surprising the Oto Nin with her speed. She got in a few strikes here and there, which made Rocklee, who was standing next to Naruto, blink in confusion. She's not hitting him seriously, Lee concluded. Having a Hyuga on my team, I know how destructive the Juken can be. But her strikes are doing almost no damage. Well, that's what you think, Naruto said, smirking at Lee. Hanata is smart. She's probably already figured out how to beat him. Meanwhile, on the floor, an extra hard Juken strike to the shoulder made Zaku grunt and flip back several times, putting a bit of distance between him and Hanata, who stopped and lowered her arms, relaxing. I will say this again, Hanata said softly, looking almost pained. You should give up. You have lost. Lost? Zaku exclaimed. I won't lose until I'm on the floor, dead. Zaku raised his arms and aimed them at Hanata again. He was a bit unnerved by the fact that the Hyuga wasn't even tensing up. She was completely relaxed, though she did look a bit sadder than she had a second ago. I'll blow you away for sure with this one. Zaku stated as he started gathering chakra in his arms. Zenku, what happened next surprised everyone except for Team 7. Zaku's arms exploded at the elbows, blowing his forearms clean off. Wah. Zaku mumbled in complete shock, staring at his arms on the ground. The Hyuga fighting style does not focus on brute strength. Hanata said softly. It instead focuses on attacking the body's chakra circulatory system. With these eyes, I can see it. I could also see the modifications done to your own. By applying my chakra in a sort of chakra senbon, when I struck your arms during my attack, I rerouted the chakra in your cannons to head back into your body. The retreating chakra and the outgoing chakra met in the middle and searched for an exit. Zaku's wide eyes looked up at Hanata just as she crossed the distance between them and lashed out with a Juken strike to the chest, which knocked him to the ground. The strike, coupled with the shock of having both arms blown off, was too much for Zaku, who lost consciousness. Winner of the second match, Hyuga Hanata. Hayate announced, as Hanata heaved a sigh and moved back to the stairs. Damn, Hanata. Naruto barked happily as Hanata approached her team. He slung an arm around her shoulders and grinned brightly. You can be pretty brutal when you want to be, eh? I'm glad I'm not your enemy. Seems you can work up some resolve after all, Sasuke said with a smirk, crossing his arms. Hanata, why don't you show this confidence all the time? I try. Hanata mumbled, poking her fingers together. It's just that. I don't know. Tsururugi Masumi vs Kankuro. Hey, it's him, Sasuke said, nudging Naruto, who looked to see the puppeteer descending the stairs, while Masumi, Yoroi's teammate, who also had his face covered, jumped down from the stands to the floor. Team 7 watched as the match started. Immediately, Masumi charged and Kankuro with a punch, which was blocked. However, Masumi's arms started stretching like rubber and wrapped around Kankuro. Next, all of Masumi wrapped around him, his arms and legs, proclaiming that his body had been altered so that he could fit into any space. He demanded that Kankuro give up, but Kankuro remained defiant, and Naruto could sense why. That's not him, he muttered to his teammates, who looked at him in surprise, just as a sickening snap was heard as Kankuro's neck broke. Then, however, Kankuro's head whipped around, and his clothes were torn as two more arms shot out of them. They were puppet arms. The disguise fell, revealing that Kankuro had only been a puppet, and the bandaged package Kankuro had been carrying on his back unwrapped, revealing the real Kankuro. Masumi tried to give up, but couldn't, as the puppet squeezed him too hard. Thankfully, Hayate ended the match as soon as Masumi lost consciousness from the pain of the broken bones. Next was the battle of the fangirls, Haruno Sakura vs Yamanaka Ino. It was boring, to say the least. They just kept talking through the battle, threw some punches, talked some more, and then, it ended with a draw. This. Naruto muttered, scratching his head. This was probably the most boring match ever. Two new names flickered onto the screen. Sabaku no Tamari vs Tenten. This match was a little longer. Tenten was a long-range fighter, just like Tamari. Tenten threw her weapons, and Tamari blew them away with her fan. That was the way it went for 10 minutes, before Tamari finally decided to end it, beating the crap out of Tenten. Tsuchi-kin vs Nara Shikamaru. This match made Naruto laugh. Shikamaru used his shadow to make Kin slam her head into the wall. Senju Naruto vs Inuzuka Kiba. Naruto's eyebrows rose at that. He looked to the Sandaime, who nodded. So, he had finally gotten the approval to use the Senju name, eh? I guess this day is just full of good news, eh? Naruto said with a small grin as he jumped down to the floor, walking over to stand in the middle. Kiba came over as well, but he was tense. Without a doubt, he, like the others of the academy, knew that Naruto's position as dead last didn't show his true skills at all. Hey, Kiba, Naruto said as Kiba put Akamaru on the floor. You should keep Akamaru out of this. I don't want to accidentally hurt him. Sorry, but Akamaru always fights with me. He's my partner, Kiba said, a small grin on his face. You know, I've been looking forward to this. Oh. Hey, Naruto and Sasuke, Konoha's strongest genin, they say. Well, although losing against you wouldn't hurt my pride all that much, beating you would show how much I've grown since the academy. Well, losing to me now won't exactly show that you've been standing still since graduation, Kiba, Naruto said with a shrug. After all, I've grown, too. 7th match, Senju Naruto vs Inuzuka Kiba. Please begin. Kiba put his hand in a tiger seal, but Naruto held up his hand. Wait, Kiba, he said softly. If you want to fight me, go all out right away. I won't be holding back more than I need to avoid killing you. Kiba hesitated for a second, then let go of the tiger seal, instead digging his hand into his kunai pouch and taking out a soldier pill, tossing it to Akamaru, who swallowed it, his fur turning red. Kiba put his hands in the tiger seal again and crouched down. Gijyu Ninpu. Shikyaku no Jutsu, beast mimicry ninja art. Four-legged technique, he exclaimed as he got down on all fours, his nails growing into claws, and his canines elongating. Akamaru jumped onto his back, and he formed another seal. Jujin Bunshin, man-beast clone. There was a poof of smoke surrounding Akamaru, and when it cleared, a clone of Kiba could be seen standing on all fours on Kiba's back. Naruto grinned. Ho! Looking pretty beastly there, Kiba. Let's see you handle this. Kiba exclaimed as Akamaru jumped off his back, and they both charged at Naruto, Kiba tossing 3 smoke bombs at Naruto's feet. The smoke bombs exploded, and Kiba and Akamaru both leapt into it, spinning at an incredible speed, becoming 2 cyclones of destruction as they charged into the smoke. Gatsuga, fang over fang. The sound of the 2 impacting something was heard, and the 2 came out of the other side of the smoke, both of them landing on all fours. Damn it, we hit resistance. Again, Akamaru. Kiba growled out, and the both performed another Gatsuga, charging into the smoke once more. This time, Naruto's cry of pain was heard, and when the 2 Inuzuka fighters came out of the smoke this time, they were accompanied by Naruto, who was flying out of it and impacted with the ground hard, grunting in discomfort. The smoke cleared to show a wooden dome that had been raised to protect Naruto. The dome, however, had been completely torn open. Hey, is that all you've got? Kiba asked, grinning as he rubbed his nose in satisfaction. Man, I knew I had grown stronger, but I didn't expect you to be this weak, Naruto. So, you're Kiba? Naruto asked as he pushed himself to his feet, smirking at Kiba. Then, he turned to his clone. Then that's Akamaru. Kiba's eyes widened as Naruto shot forward at a speed they hadn't been expecting, grabbing a hold of Akamaru. They were even more surprised when Naruto's arms transformed into wood, which lengthened and wrapped around the transformed Ninken. It's over, Naruto said calmly, turning his cold eyes toward the wide-eyed Kiba, just as 2 hands burst through the floor, grabbing Kiba's ankles. Doten. Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu, Earth Element. Double suicide decapitation technique came Naruto's voice from the floor, and Kiba cried out in shock as he was pulled into the floor until only his head was visible. Slowly, Naruto rose from the floor, seemingly growing out of it, and he stood up, grinning down at Kiba. Sorry we couldn't have an all-out epic battle, Kiba. However, these are just the preliminaries. I don't want to show off all my moves to my potential opponents. Damn you. I'm gonna. You can't move an inch, Naruto said, squatting down in front of Kiba. Well, if you still don't feel like giving up, I suppose I can threaten with snapping Akamaru's neck if you don't, he muttered, rubbing his chin. Lucky for you, I'm not that cruel. Proctor, I could kill him. Call it. Winner, Senju Naruto. Naruto grinned and grabbed Kiba's head, pulling him out of the floor as though it was water. The hole underneath him immediately closed, and the clone holding Akamaru slowly retracted its limbs and sank into the floor. Then, Naruto headed back up to his team. Next was Rocklee vs Sabaku Nogara. This match was intense. Lee showed off some amazing taijutsu moves, and beat the living shit out of Gaara, but Gaara was protected by his sand. Then, Lee opened the celestial gates, and went nuts on the Suna Genin. However, once again, his sand protected him, and he managed to crush the wounded Lee's arm and leg, resulting in his victory. Hyuga Neji vs Kinuta Dosu. This match was ended relatively quickly. Although Dosu bragged about his arm would be capable of completely disorienting Neji, the Hyuga didn't even give him a chance to use it, immediately coming at him with a flurry of Juken strikes, ending with one to the chest that completely knocked the Genin out cold. The final match was Aburame Shino vs Akamichi Choji. This one, too, ended relatively quickly. Ino had gotten Choji's spirits up by bribing him with barbecue, but despite Choji's energy, Shino immediately covered the chubby Genin with his destruction bugs, draining him of his chakra. Winner, Aburame Shino, Hayate announced and coughed into his hand, before continuing. Well, with this, the preliminary trials for the 3rd exam have been completed. Everyone, please come down here. The Genin got down from the stands, and soon stood in front of Anko, Ibiki and Hayate. To all of you who won the rights to compete in the 3rd test in the Chunan selection exams, congratulations to you all. Hayate exclaimed, before turning to the Sandame. Well then, Hokage-sama, if you would please. Yes, the Sandame said and walked forward. Well, now I'd like to start explaining the main test. As I told you before, in the main event, your matches will be seen by everybody. Each of you will fight to represent the strengths of your countries. I'd like you to show off all your powers with no reserves. Which is why the finals will be held 1 month from now. This break, as you might call it, will be for preparations. What does that mean? Neji asked, looking a bit more agitated than usual, occasionally glancing to the side to glare at Hanata. In other words, in addition to informing all the various country lords and shinobi leaders, this is the time needed to arrange for the gathering of the event. And this is also preparation time for you examination students. I don't understand what you're trying to say. What does it mean? Kankuro asked. Basically, it's the preparation to get to know your enemy and yourself. It's the time period where you calculate your chances of winning by analyzing the data you accumulated during the trial competition, the Sandaime explained, puffing on his pipe. The battles up to now had you fight as if you were in an actual combat situation with the assumption of fighting an unknown opponent. However, the final trial will not be like this. There are those who showed all that they can do already to their rivals. There are those who competed and were badly injured against a strong opponent. To make everything fair, the 1 month should be used by all of you to advance and improve yourselves. Of course, it'll be fine to rest your body as well. Well, I'd like to dismiss you now, but there's something that has to be done for the finals before I can do that. More. Shikamaru asked, sighing. Geez. Well now, don't get so excited. There are pieces of paper inside of the box that Anko is holding, so each of you take one piece. Anko held up a square box to show the genin what the old man was talking about. Now, I'll come around, so wait your turn. All the genin reached into the box as it was handed to them and drew their numbers. Once they'd announced them, the Sandaime spoke up. Alright, now I'll reveal to you the final tournament. That's what we drew the numbers for. Naruto asked, wide-eyed. Now, Ibiki, show them the match arrangements. Yes, sir, Ibiki said and held up a piece of paper. First match. Hyuga Hanata vs Hyuga Neji. Second match. Senju Naruto vs Aburame Shino. Third match. Sabaku no Gara vs Kankuro. Fourth match. Uchiha Sasuke vs Nara Shikamaru vs Tamari. Well then, you're free to start planning strategies or resting as you like. With this, I'll dismiss you all, but are there any final questions? The Sandaime asked, and Shikamaru raised his hand. Can I ask a question? Yes. Since it's a tournament, it would mean that there's only one winner, right? Which would mean that only one person can become a Chunan, doesn't it? No, that's not quite it, the Sandaime spoke, smirking. There will be judges, including myself, the Cage, lords of various countries that will make mission requests, and other ninja leaders, who will be watching the final test. Throughout the tournament, these judges will be evaluating your abilities. Those judged to have the necessary qualities of a Chunan will be able to become a Chunan, even if they lose in their first match. That means that, it's a possibility that everyone here will become a Chunan. Tamari asked. Yes. But there's also the possibility that no one will become Chunan. To advance in the tournament means that you will have more chances to appeal to the judges. Did you understand, Shikamaru-kun? The Sandaime asked, which got a sigh from Shikamaru. Geez, this is so troublesome. Well then, thanks for all the effort you exerted for these trials. You're all dismissed until a month from now. The Sandaime announced, smiling at them all. Chapter end. Naruto had to sweat drop at the sight before him. Kakashi had told him that Jiraiya would be waiting for him at the hot springs. When Naruto asked his sensei what the man looked like, the Cyclops just said, "You'll know him when you see him." That could only mean that Jiraiya was pretty unique, and upon noticing the sight in front of him, this guy was special. The man was tall, obviously, Naruto could tell even though the man was sitting down. He had long, white hair in a spiky ponytail, wore red and green, had a large scroll on his back, and a red line going down his face from each eye. Oh yeah, and he was openly giggling and peeping into the hot springs. Well, Naruto said, stuffing his hands into his pockets, when Kakashi-sensei said I'd know you when I saw you, he said it in a very extreme tone, so I though he may just have been exaggerating. The old man uttered as he turned away from his peephole, looking toward Naruto. Who are you, brat? Senju Naruto. You're Jiraiya. The old man's eyes widened, and a bright smile appeared on his face. I sure am. So, you're Naruto, eh? Ho, you've grown into a fine shinobi, that's for sure. I heard you were made my godfather, Naruto said, his hands still in his pockets. I suppose you had your reasons for not being there when I grew up, but it was a pretty shitty thing you did. But I suppose you can repay me by training me well. Jiraiya twitched in annoyance, and he gave Naruto a heated glare. Just who do you think you are, brat, trying to guilt-trip the great Gamma Sennin, Toad Sage Jiraiya-sama? You're right, you don't deserve a guilt trip, Naruto said, nodding slowly as he closed his eyes and rubbed his chin in thought. I mean, it wasn't like you were close to my old man or something. And it's not like he named you Godfather because he was counting on you to take care of me when he couldn't, right? Jiraiya twitched again, and he turned his back to Naruto, probably hoping to keep the guilty look on his face from Naruto's view. Behind him, however, Naruto put up 2 fingers in a victory sign. In any case, Naruto, there's no need for the guilt trip, Jiraiya said, turning back toward Naruto, who swiftly lowered his hand. The only reason I came back to this village was for the sole purpose of overseeing your training. That's right, the great Gamma Sennin is going to be training you personally, he exclaimed, striking a pose. Naruto blinked, then tilted his head to the side. Am I supposed to be honored? Damn right you're supposed to be honored. Jiraiya snapped. How many do you think have the privilege of claiming that they have received training from one of the legendary Sannin, huh? Well, fact is, you're getting older. You're no longer in your prime, and you spend your days writing smut, Naruto said with a shrug. Are you sure you're even in shape enough to keep up with a youngster like myself? Watch yourself, brat. You're 100 years too early to compare yourself to the likes of Jiraiya-sama. Jiraiya said, puffing out his chest with pride. Anyway, do you want to learn from me or not? Wow, take it easy, Naruto said, waving him off. I was just messing around. Lead the way, oh glorious Arrow Master. Arrow Master. Jiraiya repeated, twitching. I hope he won't be going around calling me that in public. It'll really damage my reputation, especially with the ladies. The Gamma Sennin cleared his throat and gave Naruto a grin. Well then, Naruto. We will begin right away. I'm going to be teaching you an incredible jutsu. Alright. Are you sure about this, Sasuke? Kakashi asked slowly as he and Sasuke walked, far away from the village. It'll cut into our training time. I'm sure, Sasuke said, nodding. I'm always trying to stay on the same level as Naruto, and I get the feeling I'm going to need this. In the distance was a fortress shaped like a cat. Sasuke had never been there before, but he had heard both Nekoba and Itachi talking about it. The cat fortress, home of the Ninako ninja cats. You didn't have to come with me, Sasuke told Kakashi. After all, you can't come with me inside. They'll smell the dog on you. I couldn't very well let you leave the village on your own. You'd be much too exposed, Kakashi said as he fished out his book and opened it, sitting down on a tree that had fallen over. Well, I'll be waiting for you here. Go do whatever it is you have to do. Sasuke nodded, and without another word walked off toward the fortress in the distance. Kakashi glanced up from his book to stare at Sasuke's retreating back. I acted like the carefree teacher and followed him without question, hoping he'd tell me on his own, but Kakashi's eye closed sadly, and he sighed, his head slumping. I'd really like to know what he's gonna do. Shaking his head, Kakashi went back to his Ika violence, turning the page as he kept reading. And then Shu-san told Ker-chan, you will never catch this hero off guard. He charged. Slowly, Kakashi's eye moved away from the book to stare at Sasuke again, who still hadn't disappeared from view. Damn you, Sasuke. I can't even focus on my Ika, I'm so curious. Alright, Naruto, Jiraiya said as he stood with Naruto some distance away from Konoha, his arms crossed. You've progressed further than I had anticipated, but that's good news. That means I won't have to explain too much. I'm sure you've heard of the Kuchio's no Jutsu summoning technique. I have, Naruto said with a nod. Jiraiya grinned as he bit his thumb and flashed through some hand seals. Kuchio's no Jutsu. Jiraiya called as he slammed his hand down on the ground. There was an explosion of smoke, and when it cleared, Jiraiya could be seen sitting on a large, pale orange and green toad, which had a large scroll in its mouth, and wore a necklace with 7 large beads on it, with the kanji for loyalty on the central, largest one. The toad unrolled its tongue and held the scroll out to Naruto with it. The blonde took it and lay it down on the ground, unrolling it to show 5 signatures signed in blood, with fingerprints underneath each signature. This is the contract with the toads that has been passed down through many generations, Jiraiya explained. You write your name in blood, and under that, you press your fingerprints in blood. Then, when you want to call them, mold chakra and place down the hand you signed the contract with. The hand seals are board, dog, bird, monkey, ram. Naruto nodded and bit his thumb, before signing his name and leaving his fingerprints on the scroll. Now, Naruto, how much chakra do you have? Naruto hummed and closed his eyes, molding some chakra to activate his sensors. Then, he opened his eyes again and looked at Jiraiya. I'd say, about 1/5 less than you. Jiraiya twitched at that. Why you do? Yeah. I've always had massive chakra stores, but when Sasuke started to catch up in that department, I had to step up my game. The toad disappeared in a poof of smoke, leaving Jiraiya standing there with his arms crossed. Since you have that much chakra, I don't really have an excuse to have you learn how to use it. Naruto, you have two kinds of chakra, Jiraiya said, opening his eyes to stare at Naruto seriously. Two kinds. Naruto repeated, furrowing his brow. Ah, you mean I can use Kyuubi's chakra? Know about the Kyuubi, do you? Yes, its chakra is yours to use. It's an amazingly powerful chakra that should be. No, Naruto interrupted, shaking his head. I am Senju Naruto, not the Kyuubi. I'll become an amazing ninja without relying on its chakra. Naruto, I don't think you realize, I've made it this far without it, haven't I? But, Yash, I'll try the Kuchiyos now. You brat. Stop interrupting me. Shut up, Arrow Master. I couldn't give two shits what you have to say. Why, you. The two glared at each other for a good long while. But then, Jiraiya sighed, a small smile on his face. Very well. I'll believe in you. Alright, then, become an amazing ninja on your own, starting with mastering the Kuchiyos. Alright. I'll be over there, Jiraiya said, pointing off at a waterfall in the distance, under which they had seen several girls bathing when they came here. With a wave, Jiraiya blurred out of view. TCH, old pervert. Naruto muttered, shaking his head as he bit his thumb and swiped some on his palm, before going through the required hand seals, pumping out chakra and calling out, Kuchiyos no Jutsu. There was another explosion of smoke, this one much bigger than the one that appeared when Jiraiya summoned his toad. When the smoke cleared, it revealed that Naruto was standing on a massive toad, who towered over the trees around them. It was colored a dull, rusty red, but around his eyes and lips and chest were brighter red markings. Over his left eye, he had a long scar. He wore a blue happy vest that had the kanji for shrimp on the back, carried a massive Dosu blade at his hip, and had a large Kaizuru pipe in his mouth. What the hell is this? The toad barked in a gruff voice, looking around. Hey, Jiraiya. Why did you summon me here? He glanced at his nose, to see Naruto standing there, grinning at him. Why is there a little punk on me? Where's Jiraiya? What do you want him for? Naruto asked. I'm the one who summoned you here. The toad blinked once, staring at Naruto in disbelief. He muttered you, and Naruto nodded, still grinning. This caused the toad to laugh, loudly. You shouldn't lie, punk. There's no way a lil shrimp like you could summon me. Naruto's eye twitched as the toad kept laughing. He tapped his foot impatiently, waiting for the toad to finish, but it seemed he never did. Therefore, Naruto snapped, stomping his foot down. Hey, you piece of shit toad. I'm the one who summoned you. It was I, Senju Naruto-sama. I am your master. The toad's eyes widened, but immediately narrowed dangerously. What the? Who the hell do you think you are? Some little kid is claiming that he's the master of Boss Toad Gamabunta-sama. You want your head ripped off, you little shit. Hey. Don't snap at me. I'll kick your ass if you don't show a little respect. Summoning someone like you on the first attempt at my age makes me worthy of at least some of that. Naruto yelled, clutching his fist and shaking it at Gamabunta. First attempt. Kick my ass. Don't make me laugh, shrimp. I'll pop your head like a balloon. Naruto narrowed his eyes. So, what you're saying is, you won't accept me as your master. Gamabunta-sama has no master. I take orders from no one. Naruto could see in Gamabunta's eyes that the toad was stubborn. There was a fire in his eyes that Naruto saw every day in the mirror. Hey, maybe they would be a good match if they just learned to get along. Well then, I'll make a bet with you, Gamabunta. A bet. I'm listening. You don't have to accept me as your master, but you will accept me as your summoner, and help me out if I need you. Of course, this is only if I can stay on your back until that, Naruto said, pointing at the sun, which had just started rising in the east. He moved his hand to point at the horizon in the west, goes down there. Ho, that's an interesting bet, brat. What do I get if you lose? What do you want? He. Gamabunta chuckled slowly and dangerously, narrowing his eyes. If you fall off my back, brat, you will have to give me a full-body scrub-down with a sponge. Even in all the hard-to-reach places. Naruto flinched at the thought of giving a toad a sponge bath, especially one as big as Gamabunta. He immediately shook those images out of his head, however, and grinned defiantly at the toad. Deal, Gamabunta. Senju Naruto, was it? Gamabunta asked, and Naruto nodded. Well then, it's a bet, Naruto. I'm not going to make it easy on you. Gamabunta crouched down, and then shot into the air at an unbelievable speed. Nyaaaaaaaaa. A cat wearing armor cried dramatically as he flew through the air, impacting with the ground, unconscious. Sasuke was standing in the topmost room of the cat fortress. The room was lit with a dim, blue light, a purple carpet leading up to a bamboo curtain, behind which a silhouette of a very large cat could be seen. Ho! You made it all the way here, came a voice from behind the curtain as the silhouette's head rose slightly. Well, I'd recognize that hairstyle anywhere. I've heard a lot about you. Uchiha Sasuke, the Neko Botoku cat defiler. Sasuke blinked slowly at that. Neko Botoku. That sounds disgusting. I've done nothing to earn such a name. Haven't you? You were running around, all those years ago, capturing my kin and taking their pawprints, the silhouette barked angrily. To a cat, that's like how it is for a human to be stripped naked and photographed. What's so wrong about that? Sasuke asked, a smirk appearing on his face. Do you have anything to be ashamed about? Don't be ridiculous, human, the silhouette roared angrily. Sasuke's smirk widened. He must have hit a nerve. In any case, you are Nekomata, are you not? Sasuke asked, raising an eyebrow. I understand that you have the summoning contract for the Ninako in your possession. What about it? The silhouette, Nekomata, asked, apparently calming down. I want it. I want the allegiance of the Ninako, and I want you to fight for me whenever I call for you. Nekomata was silent, and Sasuke knew his eyes had widened in shock. Then, he chuckled. The chuckle grew into a loud laugh. You are bold, brat, making demands of me like that. What makes you think I will give my allegiance to you? Because if you don't, I will just have to beat you until you do. It will be quite painful for you, Sasuke said simply, his Sharingan activating. So, what will you do? Nekomata scoffed, and Sasuke saw him performing handseals behind the curtain, preparing to use a jutsu. Don't, Sasuke said, stopping the cat. You are preparing to use a genjutsu. I can just tell you that genjutsu are useless against these eyes. Don't embarrass yourself by trying a jutsu that won't work. Nekomata chuckled softly at that as he rose to his feet, walking around the curtain to stand before Sasuke. He was large and white, and the tip of his tail was purple and split in two. His body was covered in scars, but the one that stood out the most was the one going across his left eye. Your Sharingan has developed that much at such an early age. Truly, you are Itachi's little brother. Sasuke tensed. You know Itachi. He came here, 4 years ago, Nekomata said with a shrug. Then he grinned. Well then, if genjutsu won't work, I'll go with brute force. With that, he slammed his paw down on Sasuke. Meanwhile, some distance away, Kakashi heard the rumble, and looked up from his book, turning to look at the fortress in the distance. Now I'm really curious, he thought, giving the fortress a longing stare. I want to know what's happening over there. Damn it. Fall off, you little shit. Gamabunta barked angrily as he furiously shook his head left and right and up and down in an attempt to get Naruto to fall off his head. Naruto had attached himself with Chakra, so he wasn't falling off anytime soon. Slowly, Gamabunta stopped shaking his head, closing his eyes and panting. He had been at this for hours now, after all. Well, Naruto said, turning to look to the west, there's still an hour left, but you can quit now, if you want. Like hell I will. Gamabunta exclaimed, shooting into the air again. Gamabunta went at it for another full hour. Soon enough, the sun had completely disappeared behind the trees, and a panting Gamabunta exhaled loudly and glanced up at the grinning Naruto. Senju Naruto. You're an interesting guy. I consider myself an honorable toad, and since I lost the bet, I will honor it. I accept you as my summoner. The toads will fight for you if you need help. Thanks, Gama Oyabun Toad Boss. Naruto said, giving Gamabunta a thumbs up. I have to say, though, that blonde hair fills me with nostalgia, Gamabunta said, a smirk appearing on his face. After all, the last person to ride on my head was the Yondaime. Huh. My old man. Yeah, it was 13 years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. After all, you don't tend to forget it when someone summons you on top of the strongest Biju. When he first summoned me, he and I made a similar bet. Oh. He got you to accept him as his summoner, too. After a while. He was a bit more respectful than you, so I took him in even after he lost, and was forced to give me a sponge bath. Gamabunta took a drag on his pipe, letting the image of the Yondaime Hokage giving the toad a sponge bath sink in Naruto's head. He exhaled the smoke, then stared at Naruto again. You have the fire of your parents in your eyes, Naruto boy. I expect great things from you, Gamabunta said, then glanced to the west. Well, it's late, and the kids are probably worried. Later, Naruto. Later, Gama Oyabun. Naruto said, giving Gamabunta a lazy salute. The toad exploded into smoke, returning home, wherever that may have been. Nekomata flinched as Sasuke took a step toward him. The monster cat was on the floor, beaten, his fur bloodied. He also had a cut across his right eye, matching the scar across his left. Monster. Nekomata grunted out, shivering. Why you're a monster. I am Uchiha Sasuke, Konoha Shinobi, Sasuke said calmly as he sheathed his sword. And I will have what I came here for. You were beaten, Nekomata. Are you going to give it to me? Despite his fear, Nekomata managed a weak grin. He coughed once, then said, you truly are Itachi's little brother. You beat me just as quickly as he did, and you were also just toying with me, damn you. Nekomata rolled over onto his stomach and pushed himself up, moving behind the bamboo curtain. When he came out again, he was holding a large scroll in his paw, which he handed over to Sasuke, who took it. Well, you beat me, there's no denying that. Nekomata said, humming softly. The Uchiha clan is something special, eh? I guess that being in the possession of your clan isn't such a bad thing. Nekoba and her cats seem to like you, after all. It's appreciated, Sasuke said, nodding his head to Nekomata, before turning around and walking away. When Sasuke reached the spot where Kakashi was waiting, the Chunan immediately shot over to Sasuke, looking at him and the scroll expectantly. So, what did you do? Kakashi asked eagerly. Sasuke just smirked and held up the scroll. I procured the Ninako summoning contract for the Uchiha clan. Ninako? Kakashi asked, blinking. That's a shame. I had been counting on you signing a contract with my Ninken. No thanks, I prefer cats. The Uchiha clan are used to dealing with them. Well, at least now he's back, and I know what he was doing, Kakashi thought as they started walking, and he fished out his book, opening it. Now I can focus on this again. The very next day, Hanata rose early, as she had done every day since the preliminaries ended. She could feel that she definitely had grown stronger, but she could get stronger still, there was no doubt about that. Therefore, she had requested training from her father, who had agreed. There was little doubt that her father had been greatly surprised by Hinata's sudden improvement. In the last few spars between Hanata and Hanabi, Hanata had always been the one who remained standing. In all honesty, Hanata only had Naruto and Sasuke to thank for that. Hanata couldn't imagine what her life would have looked like if she had lost to Sakura during the graduation, if she had ended up the girl with the second best grades, which would have landed Sakura in Team 7, and Hanata in Team 8. So now, Hanata got ready, had her breakfast, put on her sparring uniform, and went outside to the Hyuga training ground, where she found her father waiting. Are you ready to begin? He asked sternly, and Hanata nodded as she took her spot in front of Hiashi and assumed a Juken stance. Well then. His eyes drifted shut, and he appeared to be deep in thought. There is little doubt in my mind that, despite being of the branch family, the Hyuga blood burns the hottest in Neji's veins. He is an amazing prodigy, and you are going to need all the help you can get against him, even with your drastic growth. Therefore, I will be teaching you a new technique today. Hiashi's Byakugan activated as he opened his eyes and got into a Juken stance. I will be teaching you Jukenho. Hake Rokujuyan Sho, Gentle Fist Art. 8 trigrams 64 palms. Woo, Juken. This whoop caused both Hyuga to blink and turn to the side, to see Naruto and Sasuke sitting on the sidelines, grinning and smirking respectively. What are you doing here? Hiashi demanded. How did you get in? Well, First and foremost, we came here to cheer for Hanata during her training, Naruto said, grinning still. We've both taken a day off from our own training, Sasuke supplied. But our secondary objective was to better protect our teammate by discovering and pointing out flaws in Hyuga's security, Naruto continued and pointed over his shoulder. By the way, during the 0900 hours guard shift, there is a blind spot in the security in the northwest corner of the compound. The Hyuga training regimen is strictly forbidden for outsiders to see. Hiashi said, sounding a bit outraged. You should know this. I told you that last time. Well, I've been thinking about that. Sure, I'm a total badass when it comes to learning new jutsu and crap, and Sasuke here has the Sharingan, but in all honesty, the Juken is pretty much useless to anyone who doesn't have a Byakugan, right? Naruto asked, scratching his head. So, I don't see what the problem is. Hiashi's eyes narrowed dangerously, causing Naruto and Sasuke to flinch. So, Dango? Sasuke asked Naruto, who nodded. With that, the two blurred out of view. Your friends are excellent at snooping, Hiashi commented disdainfully. They are great friends, father, Hanata said, smiling softly. Sasuke-kun is excellent at analyzing strength and weaknesses, and pointing out what needs to be worked on in order to become balanced, and Naruto-kun. Hanata trailed off as she tried to find the words for it. Well, Naruto-kun has a personality that just makes you want to become the best you can be. Hiashi stared at Hanata for a long time in thought. Hanata has never showed any real talent. A short while after becoming a genin, her talent suddenly skyrockets. Senju Naruto. Huh. What an interesting guy. Jiraiya stood in front of Naruto, his arms crossed as he stared at his new student. Currently, Naruto was sitting cross-legged on the ground with his back turned, meditating and molding chakra. All around them, the trees were moving, swaying and twisting. Jiraiya had to admit, the guy had talent, a lot more than Jiraiya did at his age. It seemed like he only inherited the best traits from his relatives. He had Kushina's temper and monstrous chakra stores, he had his father's talent, looks, and his guts. Not only that, but he had somehow managed to come up with a lesser version of Tsunade's monstrous strength, and possessed the Nadime's senses, and the Shodai's Mokuton ninjutsu. This guy is so good, it's almost unfair, Jiraiya thought with a small grin. Hey, Naruto. The trees around them suddenly straightened and went still again as Naruto turned his head to look at the old pervert. Yeah. Come here, Jiraiya said, beckoning him closer. Naruto sighed and got up, walking over. What? It's not another scheme to have me pose as your grandson so you can get chicks, is it? Not really. I'm going to teach you a new, cool jutsu. It's a jutsu your father created, Jiraiya said, making Naruto's eyes widen with excitement. Jiraiya chuckled and held up his hand. Chakra started swirling in it, taking the form of a ball in his hand, inside which chakra was swirling wildly, looking like there was a raging chakra storm inside the ball. This is the Rasengan, an A-rank ninjutsu. We've only got 22 days left until the third exam, so I don't expect you to master it before then, but we might as well get started now. The Rasengan died down, and Jiraiya took a scroll out of his vest, unsealing a paper bag filled with water balloons. Jiraiya picked one up and held it out to show Naruto. Then, the balloon started bulging everywhere, and suddenly exploded. See what I did just now? Jiraiya asked, raising an eyebrow. Naruto narrowed his eyes in thought as he stared at Jiraiya's drenched hand. You rotated the water, Naruto said, and Jiraiya nodded. You have done both the tree climbing and water walking chakra exercises, yes. Yeah. The tree climbing exercise focuses on concentrating a certain amount of chakra to your foot. This helps you work on regulating the chakra output. Water walking focuses on continuously releasing a set amount of chakra to remain on the water. In this step of the training, you use the water walking exercise, basically. You are to release a set amount of chakra into the balloon with a continuous flow, Jiraiya said, picking up a balloon and tossing it to Naruto, who furrowed his brow as he concentrated on releasing his chakra, rotating it. The balloon stretched, but it didn't start bulging like Jiraiya's balloon had. It doesn't look the same, Naruto noted, to which Jiraiya nodded, a smirk on his face. Can you figure out why? Obviously, we did it differently, Naruto said as his eyes drifted closed in thought. Jiraiya watched as Naruto stood there in silence for a good minute. Then, his hands started shaking the balloon up and down, then left and right, then diagonally, then back and forth, shaking the balloon in all directions. Then, Naruto's eyes snapped open, and he started focusing chakra into the balloon again. This time, the balloon started bulging everywhere, before exploding. Oh, wow, Jiraiya said, crossing his arms with a smirk on his face. I had been told that Sasuke was the brains of the duo. Didn't take you long to figure out the trick to the test. Just because Sasuke is smarter than me, that doesn't mean I'm dumb. Besides, when it comes to ninjutsu, I'm unrivaled, Naruto said with a grin. So, what's the next step? Wait, Jiraiya said, gesturing for the bag with the balloons. That was quick. I want you to pop 10 more, so you can really get a feel for the first step. You're gonna need it. Step 2 is 100 times harder. Jiraiya took 10 balloons out of the bag, then sealed it up again. As Naruto got to work popping them, Jiraiya unsealed another paper bag, this one filled with rubber balls. Another step like that? Naruto asked as he was tossed one of the balls. Yep. Now you must break that ball, Jiraiya said, holding up a rubber ball and blowing it up with minimal effort. The first step is rotation. This step is to add power. Without the water, it's harder to feel the chakra, so it's hard to power it up or control it. Practice this for a bit. With that, Jiraiya turned to walk away. Where are you going? Naruto asked as he stared at the ball in his hand. I'm heading into the village. A man needs to relax, after all. Whether you pop the ball or not, we'll meet here tomorrow, same time. Naruto watched as Jiraiya left. Then, he turned his gaze back to the ball and did the same thing he had done with the water balloon. The ball started bulging, but only slightly, and then died down again. TCH. The first step was counterproductive. Naruto muttered, sitting down. Using water first made it seem easier than it is. Should have started with this step so you could get used to the difficulty right away. So, what did you think? Love it? Hate it? Remember to leave a comment. Peace. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.